The Borderlands series is notorious for its number of ways to play through the games thanks to the different classes, weapon types, and self-imposed challenges stupid people can come up with. Like, for instance, you could remove an important part of the game. Can you beat Borderlands, the pre-sequel, without an Oz kit? There are two ways to go at this challenge. You can be a nerd and choose Claptrap because he doesn't need air, meaning he doesn't need an Oz kit, or you can pick a human who does. I chose Handsome Jack because why not? I spent a little while looking at the skill trees for each character, and I saw that Jack has a skill for Health Regeneration, and that's when I stopped my search and chose him. The beginning of the game is nothing of note because there's air to breathe. I woke up to Claptrap giving me orders and leading me to my first instance of combat. Some people might like the guns that are more accurate the more you shoot, but I don't. Which is ironic, I guess, since they're Hyperion guns and I'm playing as Jack. After killing a few more Lost Legion soldiers, I met Handsome Jack, saved his life, and finally got a gun that I don't hate. He gave me a shield, explained the plan, I examined my rear, killed the turrets, and began making our way to the evacuation station. Sarpedon looked creepy as shit, and Question Mark Guy is powerful enough to stop bullets but can't get through a cheap steel door. We got outside, not outside, because there's still an atmosphere with air, and fought through the Lost Legion flight crew and soldiers. I leveled up and finally got my action skill, which allows me to summon digital me's to bring the total Jack count up to unprecedented levels of handsome. Two newer and better guns later, I encountered the obligatory first boss with Knuckle in his name. With the impossible number of Jacks on Team Jack, Flame Knuckle never stood a chance. Back inside a building, I cleared an elevator, loaded myself inside a mobile home, and got shot to the fucking moon. Janie Springs gave me a few seconds to prepare myself to enter the void of space that lacked oxygen. Without an Oz kit, your health gradually drains down, unless you enter an oxygen bubble or you find yourself a little air ground hole to breathe from. I explained my situation to Janie, which reminded me of my still very dead dog named Janie, and ventured back outside to find myself an Oz kit. You might be thinking that after so much time in the pre-sequel, I'd know how the health drainy thing works. Well, I don't. My assumption is that it drains at a fixed rate based on your total health, because later in the game it drained much faster than like 1 hit point per second. To continue the main quest, I had to pick up a broken Oz kit and give it to Janie to fix, who then returns it to me, and it automatically equips itself. You can't beat the pre-sequel without ever wearing an Oz kit, but you sure as hell can rip it off your face, chuck it into the lava, and go out of your way to suffocate as often as possible. With my Oz kit now hopelessly lost forever, I started a side mission that had me making a few inspirational posters for Janie. It's an easy mission. Just jump on the pad a few times, shoot some stuff, do a slam. Do a slam? Okay, you can't do a slam without an Oz kit. Unfortunate, but I'm sure this won't come back to bite me in the ass later. I then did another side quest that involved falling into a pit of lava on purpose, finding a few children's stories, killing the son of Flamey, and returning it all to Janie. That leveled me up, and I got my first skill point that actually mattered. The skill I'm after is Take Their Freedom, that heals me and my holograms 2.5% of my max health per rank anytime one of us kills an enemy. That's a tier 2 perk in the hero of this story skill tree, so I put the point into Bolster to up my total health and make my holograms do more damage. With my goal now clear, I could push onward and take the fight to Deadlift. I killed quite a few Kragons on the way to Regolith Range, where I encountered space bandits for the first time. This is where the lack of an Oz kit can be troublesome. When there's no air to breathe, your health constantly drains. If you're not careful, your shield will be depleted and enemies will be able to damage your health, which is still draining. This applies to bandits too though. If there's no air to breathe, popping their Oz kit will do damage and drain their health. It's sort of a risk versus reward thing. There are oxygen canisters that can drop from enemies, but they don't work if you don't have an Oz kit. It's not like you can just pump the oxygen up your ass and breathe it that way. After using my body as a fuse, I used the jump pad and met Deadlift. No matter how many times I play this game, Deadlift is always a bitch and a half to fight. Between actually finding him and how he electrocutes the floor, it's just an annoying fight. He's not tough though, so I murderized him, took the key from his toilet, and was off to the Moon Zumi station. Quite a few Kragons died on the way out there. I found a corpse with a message left inside it, transmitted the message for the dead guy, found Squat amongst a crowd of scavs, and channeled my inner hitman by carefully performing a picture-perfect execution on everyone. Found Nell, insulted Nell, got my reward from Zarpedon, collected my reward, activated the moon zoomy, and fell into the lava. The fun thing about moon buggies is that despite being completely exposed to the frigid vacuum of space, your health doesn't drain while you're in the vehicle. Normally, boarding a buggy would recharge your Oz kit, so I guess there's an oxygen exhaust pipe, the second best kind of pipe you can suck on to keep yourself alive. For those of you who require hand-holding, that was not a drug reference. This is a family-friendly channel. It was a suicide joke, as saying go suck a tailpipe is a way to tell someone to kill themselves. Before heading to Concordia, I thought to pass the time with a side quest or two. I got myself a special shield, lost my buggy in a freak lava cliff accident, ran to the control room, and quickly decided that this quest was not for me. I not like no puzzles, so I jumped another gap with my buggy, antagonized a family of Kragons, picked up a light reactor, and got a Nito laser rifle from Janie before heading to Concordia. After interrupting a prostate exam and not following the nurse's orders, the Marif stowed himself away in his office, forcing me to interact with the sex appeal of Borderlands, Claptrap. He showed me the bank and cross-character contamination chambers. I got an upgrade from Earl, who is not the spider living above my front door, and began doing some communication tower shit for Moxie. Go here, press a button, kill a turret, nothing complicated. I did learn about the Marif's sexual past, which wasn't nearly as horrid as the erotic Mitten Squad fanfiction I heard in the Mitten Squad Discord server that involved me getting fucked in the ass. I'm off track. Moxie showed me her back entrance. I got a class mod that reduces my action skill cooldown to 35 seconds from 40 seconds, and I began making my way towards Crisis Scar. The main entrance was blocked, so I had to kill a bunch of Darksiders and pick up prisms to prove my worth. That fighting without air thing nearly got me killed when I faced off against Fair Dinkum. I found Claptrap's secret entrance and fought my way through a small army of scavs until I arrived at Crisis Scar to search for the source of a signal. Because my IQ is on par with that of a block of cheese that's been sealed in a jar for 15 years, it took me a bit to figure out how to cross this lava. Turns out you jump over the lava by jumping over the lava. Oh Gearbox, what will you think of next? Red Belly taunted me several times as they sent out group of scavs after group of scavs to kill me as I pushed through Crisis Scar to find the signal. Fighting half a dozen enemies at a time can spell disaster when there's no air, because you're taking damage from all directions. Luckily, this sick laser gun mops the floor with all but the baddest of ass outlaws. Back inside a building where I wasn't suffocating constantly, Red Belly introduced themselves and the boss fight began. The holograms are good at keeping Red and Belly from shooting at me by distracting them with fake me's. Belly died, Red died a few seconds later, and I finally leveled up to level 9, which allowed me to put the first point into Take Their Freedom. In theory, I'd gotten this far without it, so I thought it smart to give my digital babies a copy of my shield every time they spawned. There were a bunch of turrets and scavs guarding the signal blocking relays, which almost made me immediately regret my skill point decision from 2 sentences ago. In a twist everyone saw coming, it was the Marif who was blocking the signal, and I went back to Concordia to meet up with me and deal with the Marif. It took a Detective Claptrap to get us into the Marif's office. Also, real quick, Jack's running animation is fucking weird and it bothers me way more than it should. Marif tried to off Jack, Jack blasted him into a few hours from now, and Jack explained that his plan is to create a robot army. I can only see this being a raging success. To get an AI to create the army, I'd need a Stingray, also known as the biggest vehicular letdown in video game history. With my boring hovercraft, I went to the Outlands Canyon to find Davis Pickle, who may or may not be involved with the sea pickles invading the waters of the Pacific Northwest. Turns out that Pickle is a kid. Thankfully though, he's not an annoying cunt like Tiny Tina. Pickle explained that to get an AI, I'd need to get to the Drakensburg, a ship Zarpedon crashed, I think. The enemies here are above my pay grade, so much so that they've got a spooky skull next to their names. This was a good opportunity to get accustomed to being fucked by skulls, because they have a role to play later on down the line. The skulls didn't last long, because I leveled up to level 10, put a point into the Health Regeneration upon successful murder skill, and the bosun blew up the bridge to the Drakensburg. To cross the bridge, I had to find a pump and dump some methane to cool the hot lava with a cool island song. It took a good bit of time to accomplish this boring task, and I got lost at least once, but I finally let the methane flow, crossed the path, and entered Pity's Fall. It was here everything changed for the better. I bought a class mod that has health regeneration, so the lack of oxygen is irrelevant. Well, no, it's actually not. Turns out that health regeneration has no effect out in the void, but it still helps when there's air in my lungs, so that's something, I guess. Some time ago, I got this laser gun that deals an impressive amount of damage, making the scavs and raiders guarding the path to the interior of the ship not much of a threat. The grenades I have can also launch people into orbit when the stars align. The bosun sent most of what he could muster to stop me after I entered the ship, who managed to nearly kill me a few times. The skipper, though, decided to help my cause. She used her voice to lead me to the engine room, where I did some technical stuff that ended with me launching the bosun's favorite engine into the depths of space. He would not take that sitting down. I continued fighting my way through waves of enemies, suffocating nearly all the way to the bosun, who was either a cripple or just really likes that chair. Either way, I was wrong, because he would take that sitting down. The bosun was a complete joke of a boss. I timed it. He died in about 20 seconds. The cripple was down for the count. I rescued Skipper, who is the AI I was searching for, and could begin building the robot army. Almost. I fancied myself another side quest. This one went horribly, just like the others. There's a secret chamber that requires 3 echo recordings to access. Because I have no shame, I'm more than willing to admit that this side quest took me 20 minutes to complete. The how the fucks and why are you so dumbs don't matter. All that matters is that I've got a new gun, turned in the side quest, and was off to the train station. Monsters from heck tried to stop me from boarding the train, but they failed. I took a train ride, immediately left to return to Concordia to buy a few upgrades for the ammo types I used, returned to the train station, and had the opportunity to fight a bunch of bugs. Upside is, I've got a shield that does damage to melee attackers, which almost kills the low-level Torx. The skipper, now going by the name Felicity, doesn't like Torx. I forgot where I was going with that. I leveled up again and picked the Jack's Cash perk. It's a skill that effectively gives you a free grenade for every 4 kills me or my holograms get. This is a very useful perk. You'll see why in a bit. After clearing out a bunch of scavs, I saved Gladstone, who revealed himself to be the mastermind behind the constructor bots, and my objective was still to get to the Titan robot production plant. The stolen doll power suits were a complete joke thanks to my corrosive laser shotgun thing. I accidentally spent half my money on a shield that, after I stuffed my heart back down my throat, wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Then, guess what? More scavs! This time there were a lot of them, and I even managed to die. Once. With the glass broken and a whole bunch of scavs dead, I could get to work on putting together the constructor. Between the holograms and my child-spawning grenades, the worker bots never stood a chance. I created the Eye of Oculus, stuffed it in the machine, followed the body, spent a while being attacked while waiting for turrets to calibrate themselves, attached the turrets. Felicity bragged about her sentience by complaining about how much she didn't want to spend an eternity stuffed inside a constructor bot, and I upped my grenade game, yet again. The On My Mark skill grants me the ability to have my holograms each throw a copy of my grenade once per action skill. This, along with my other grenade perk, becomes invaluable later on when I get life-sucking grenades. I escorted Felicity for a while, enjoyed listening to her beg for mercy as her memory was wiped, and she went rampant on us. Who saw that coming? Between my holograms and the grenades, my damn near infinite grenades, my corrosive laser gun, my health regeneration, this was another easy boss fight. With what remained of Felicity forever stuck inside the constructor, constantly wishing for death, I returned to Concordia with my robot army, got some new gear from Moxie, and we all joined hands as we were broken down at the atomic level and remade at the Big H in the sky. Back up in space, there were Lost Legion soldiers all over the place. They're more or less the same as scavs and raiders, just with more suffixes in their name. Some are medics, some have cloaks, some have giant power suits. What am I saying? They're nothing like scavs or raiders. To get into Jack's office, I had to find a Claptrap and let it do its usual Claptrap annoying bullshit. Then he died, I laughed, and met up with Jack in our office. An assortment of scientists in the R&D section of Helios needed saving, the first of which was good old Gladstone. In a stroke of game design genius, each of the 3 scientists are trapped in their own area, which is guarded by their own enemy type, either Stalkers, Torx, or Lost Legion. Find something for them, open a box containing gear I can't use, and you're done. A little time consuming, but there's air to breathe, so this is pretty much what you'd encounter in a normal playthrough. A few enemies have skulls next to their name, probably because I've mostly avoided side quests, like I avoid interacting with other humans. The scientists were all saved, I met back up with me, Roland, and Lilith, and other me undid all my great work by pulling an Elmo and launching the scientists into space. Expecting the worst, my next task was to also go into space in an attempt to reach the Eye of Helios. To get into space, you have to pass through a tunnel, and that tunnel is full of skeleton heads of the worst kind, high-level enemies. It was a little tough to get through there. In space, most of the problems associated with suffocating have been completely removed. 12.5% of my health is regenerated every time I get a kill. My grenades home in on enemies and suck away their life force, which also applies to the grenades thrown by my holograms. Suffice it to say, the lack of an Oz kit now means nothing. The bigger problem is how underleveled I am. I fought through the Lost Legion forces, destroyed several regulators on plasma boosters, traversed the veins of Helios, and arrived at the Lunar Command Station. I spent far longer than I should have searching for a fixed loader to activate the gun loader program, found it, and once again met back up with Jack. Moxie interrupted my private time with myself by explaining that I'll have to shut down the laser the old-fashioned way. I somehow managed to not blow up the first force field power source. The enemies were now up to level 23. I fought my way through a bunch of tough cookies on my way to the force field, got them handled about as well as someone could, and had to defend the big boy while Moxie drained it. Business picked up after I ran out of laser ammo. Luckily, I had the most generic-looking handgun in my arsenal of tools. It shut down. Jack and other Jack entered the Eye of Helios. We passed through the electrical barrier, and Zarbadon arrived. This was very not easy. The first issue is that she's 5 levels higher than me, which generally isn't a situation you want to find yourself in with any enemy, let alone a boss fight, unless you're doing a raid boss. A single one of her attacks is enough to bring me to the brink of death, which is why I channeled my inner Jimmy Neutron and sent in the clones. The longer they're alive, the more damage they deal. They provide a distraction, kill Lost Legion soldiers, which both gives me health, and they can send out their own grenades that suck life from Zarbadon. I got pretty close to defeating her on my second go-around, tried to run through the electricity, failed in a way that you already know, bought a new gun, and went back up for more punishment. The Frosty the Snowman laser shotgun was far more effective against her than it had any right to be. It chewed through ammo like a motherfucker, but it was worth it. Zarbadon was finally sent to an early grave, and she's not dead. Not only is she not dead, she brought new enemies, Eternals, back from beyond the grave with her. Eternals are like Goliaths from Borderlands 2. If you damage them but don't kill them quick enough, they get more powerful. Good news is, Zarbadon was far more concerned with killing the real Jack than fake Jack, which allowed me to blast her with snow from the side. Jack killed her. He inspired me in the best possible moment, and Jack showed me the true destructive force behind the Helios laser, the Eye of the Destroyer. My attempts to destroy it with rockets proved futile. Moxie interrupted my private time with me, again, with a way to shut down the destroyer. The eyeball got all purple and sad, then it turned a little green. Space pink eye sure is scary. But it wasn't pink eye, it was a double cross. Moxie, Roland, Lilith, and probably Claptrap were all playing cahoots the entire time. Jack was unhappy, I got a good shot of my ass, and got the last main story quest, the beginning of the end. Let me throw some numbers your way. This is recording number 7 of 11, and we're 80% of the way through it. The total playthrough of this game is about 198 gigs, and at the moment, we're about 62% of the way through the whole thing. You might be wondering how the hell we're on the last mission and not even 2/3 of the way through the recordings. I'll tell ya, I fucked up by only doing a few side quests. I was able to get by, facing higher level enemies for a while, but I hit the wall. The Lost Legion soldiers in Virago Solitude are 4 to 6 levels higher than me, and the Eternals are now a common occurrence, and are such a pain in the ass to fight. I tried just running past the enemies, but they did too much damage too quickly. Plus, if I pushed onward without killing anything, it would only get harder because my level would stay the same while the enemies got tougher. So I backtracked. I spent a solid hour doing side quests to level me up enough to stand a chance against the Lost Legion. I'm not going to go over that hour because none of it was very difficult. Most of it was indoors, so the Oz kit wouldn't have had any effect, but as I've previously said, it hasn't mattered in a while anyway. Also, someone said that my Far Cry 3 video was too long, so this one's for you, buddy. If anyone really wants to hear about my adventures and side quests, leave a comment or answer the poll on your screen now. If anyone wants to hear about it for whatever reason, I could post a side video about it on Mitten Prime or something. After leveling up a few times, I returned to Virago Solitude, pushed through the Lost Legion, the Guardians revealed themselves, and it was time for another boss fight, where, goddammit, the boss is still 4 levels higher than me. The silver lining is that I found a solid cheese technique. hide in the elevator, and it can't hit you, most of the time. It's time consuming as shit. You have to wait for it to be visible to be able to hit it while avoiding its attacks. Slowly but surely, I whittled its health down enough to slay the mechanical beast. All the loot it dropped is worthless to me because of its level, and I entered Tycho's ribs. This was also a pain in the ass. Lots of high-level enemies, guardians are fragile and do a lot of damage. I spent a solid 30 minutes slogging through shit in Tycho's ribs until I got to Elysir. I was in over my head again, and backtracked to spend another hour doing side missions to level up. Same deal as last time. I'm not going to get into it because the quests were a few levels below me, so they were mostly trivial. Though one I couldn't complete because I didn't have an Oz kit to do the slam. During round 2 of my adventures and side quests, I got in a class mod which helps 2 important skills: Persistence, which grants me health regeneration when my action skill is cooling down, and Take Their Freedom, the skill that regenerates a portion of my health every time I get a kill. I was as prepared as I was ever gonna get, and I returned to Elysir to finish the fight. I'd also gotten a proper shotgun that did significant damage to guardians, mostly because the unorthodox pellet spread made it easy to get critical hits on the guardians, but also because it does shock damage, and shock damage is incredibly effective against shields. The guardians don't have much health, but their shields can be tough to deplete, which is where this shotgun shines. After dispatching the Alpha Superior rather quickly, I fought my way to the vault entrance, entered it, and entered the Shadow Realm. It was here I faced the final boss, the Sentinel, the guardian of the vault. Shortly before this fight, I'd leveled up again, which allowed me to get the ultimate perk and the hero of this story skill tree: Promote the Ranks. It guarantees one of my Hollowjacks will be a badass, and gives the other a 33% chance of being one as well. They're bigger, tougher, do more damage, and are orange. The jacks seem to do fire damage. I did shock damage with my shotgun, and my grenades do corrosive damage, which made each instance of fighting the Sentinel far easier than I thought it would be. I'd go so far as to call it disappointingly easy. Then it pulled the Rolf and emerged from the ground as the Hyperion Sentinel. A mega evolution. Oh wait, those aren't a thing anymore. What's the new thing called? Dynamaxing? It did that. It was definitely harder to kill, mostly due to the fact that it profanitied with the gravity and shocked the floor. Once you knock its face off with an elemental weapon that counters whatever element it's using, it's merely a matter of letting the holograms distract it while you attack from a distance. It's a 3-round fight for the Hyperion Sentinel. I ended its life without dying once, knocked it back into the static from which Rolf came, was disappointed that no legendary weapons dropped. Lilith sucker punched Jack, he became the handsome Jack we all know and love, and I beat Borderlands, the pre-sequel, without using an Oz kit. And that's going to do it for this video about whether or not you can beat Borderlands the pre-sequel without using an Oz kit. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter @Mitten Squad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.